It's Dr. Tennant's Verbal Highs. Let's start the show with Lewis Tennant. Here we go. Guests and interviews that you're looking for with creators, innovators, and so much more. For all episodes and further info, verbalhighs.com is the place to go.
Welcome to Dr. Tennant's Verbal Highs, a podcast podcasted from Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland, New Zealand. Said with zest and enthusiasm. My name is Lewis Tennant and I am the host of the show. Kia ora, talofa lava, or mushi mushi if you are a Japanese man listening on the telephone, or woman, or non-binary. My guest today is Lenny. Can I say Lenny? I think I can say Lenny. I think his mates call him Lenny. I know him as Leonard Powell, as RNZ does, where he currently works, which we chat about, of course, during the show, as the producer of RNZ's weekly morning show, First Up, and as well as a kind of roving journalist and story maker for other shows. But I know Lenny as Leonard because that is how his name appeared on my student register or roll for the course I taught him in when he was first year at AUT, where he did the comms degree over 2.5 or 3 years. And how I've come to chat to a student on this podcast, I've already had another one on. I had Olivia Shivers on recently, which is really enjoyable. How I've come to chat to another student I have taught is I DM'd, slid into bloody Nathan Ruddity's DMs, because I can do that, because, you know, we're tight. Anyway, keep on track. I messaged Nathan because I wanted someone to come in and chat to the students, and we got chatting. He said, I think I know one of your ex-students, and pleasantries exchanged ensued about Leonard, and about Leonard talking about his experience of being in my classroom. And I knew that he was familiar with my podcast. Like, not many students are really probably interested in the end of the day at listening to what their teacher does, but I know Leonard had listened to a few episodes, and also he forgets this, as we mentioned in the podcast, but he approached me just after he'd finished studying, I think, when I put a call out on my Verbal Highs Facebook page for guests, saying I'd love to be a guest, and just was a little bit early after uni, because my thing is to have him on, I thought, because my thing is with students is I remember my years at uni. This is not the reason for, but I think one of them, now I reflect on it, when I was at uni, like for example, I had a couple of classes where lecturers treated me really poorly, like probably in a way that you wouldn't get away with these days, kind of singling me out in class and stuff. So that's part of a number of reasons that has informed the way I am, particularly with first years in my classrooms, where I am sort of equally energetic and engaged or on equal footing with every student. So long story short is I really liked Leonard, and he was a great presence in the classroom. But it's just like we'll wait a while before we kind of start getting singular students on the show. And as he mentions, most of the stuff we talked about has happened since he asked to be on the show last time anyway. So it was a great chat. Some of them are more conversations than interviews, and this one's more of a conversation. So more of me jabbering on as Leonard responds to some of the questions I asked, but it's got a great energy, and it was conducted with great ease. Okay. We chat about his life trying to become a pro golfer before deciding to come to study at AUT. We talk about his time at RNZ. Now we talk about the short, I would argue, long short film he and a mate made over lockdown, which is a hoot. It's been a tough few months, folks. Blimmin' heck. I talked about how my grandmother passed a few months earlier, and then middle winter went through, and then I got a little bit lost in my way, and then end of mask traffic lighty things and all of that has been announced recently, and the sun's on my veggies again. That's not a euphemism. In other words, just things are looking up, things are a bit brighter, my head's a bit clearer. Mass redundancies announced at my work. They're happening shortly, but you know, you got to do that thing of living in the moment, right? You can't really change what you've got no influence over at this stage. So we wait and see. I think it's being announced on October 31 who stays and who goes. Apparently a letter just turns up in your mailbox if you're going. Like the show and subscribe and comment and get in touch and do all that good stuff. Verbal Highs podcast on Facebook, Verbal Highs on Twitter, verbalhighs@gmail.com if you want to directly contact me. I'm always on the hunt for guests or guest ideas, or just for you to check in and say, hey, I've enjoyed this episode, or have you thought about doing this, and all of that stuff. Did I mention the website, verbalhighs.com? This show's been going nearly 6 years. I realise that episodes have got more sporadic as time's gone on. They're kind of like truffles now. You search and search and search. You don't find, oh, look, a lot of truffles all in one place. In other words, I just recorded another episode, which I think is going to turn into a two-parter with someone else. So there'll be a bunch of episodes dropping with regularity over the next few weeks. But also, like I say, I didn't really get into proper depth about, I basically come out of a bit of a funk, post, last few years have been tough. I was very, very close to my grandmother. She passed. Family stuff happens after that. You come back, you live in at home, wearing a mask every time you go out. But it's all good. It's all good now. It's all good now. We, swings and roundabouts. That's what life's about, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, last thing on Leonard, I think Leonard will become more and more known for the various things he does or is doing over the years to come. So good to chat to him now, eh? Bloomin' exclusive. Bloomin' exclusive.
Verbal high straight down from up above.
And that's on, and we're on.
Yeah, it's like when I first saw it, I was like, that's kind of like Fisher Price, my first radio station, and I really wasn't convinced.
Yeah.
But then I worked out quite quickly when Rock Shop gave me one to take home that that's the whole idea. Is so you've kind of learnt about this stuff through your work and through studying, and obviously I teach this kind of area, but this is designed so someone who just wants to start a podcast and it sounds really good just goes, oh, hit the red button.
Yeah.
Talk.
Literally, no clicking computer, but I thought you were going to have to fire the computer up as well.
And how good is the timbre of our voice through these beautiful...
Yeah, it feels great.
These beautiful preamps.
So you got the rock...
I think I should send this to Roadcaster. They'll love this.
Have you got the Rock Shop plug?
Yeah, they did give me a good deal on one for home, and I am now a Rock Shop ambassador, which might be handy because you might have heard that. Did you read about the fact that a whole lot of us might lose our jobs here?
Yes.
Yeah.
I did read that. A lot.
Oh, look, I probably shouldn't talk about it publicly at the moment, but I did bring it up. We're going to be assessed on a set of criteria, and who knows? But basically, I think 150 lecturer jobs are going. Not in comms, in the whole of AUT.
Yeah, across the 3 campuses.
It's a lot of staff, though, right?
That is a lot of staff.
And a lot of them are from our faculty.
Gee,
that's a cheery start. I didn't expect to start with it.
No, I mean, I was going to say it's good to be back, but yeah, it's tough.
Well, it's a sign of the times, man. I was thinking today because you finished. So you're the second student I've had on, and unlike Olivia, who was a few guests ago, she graduated quite a few years earlier than you. I was thinking about it today. Didn't you pop out the other end of this, just when the world went into a pandemic, pretty much?
October 2019 was when I finished.
Yeah. So because I feel for a while I didn't want to really talk pandemic on the podcast because it was just so gloomy for everyone. But yesterday kind of feels like we're coming out the other end of it. Was that tough, man? Was it a tough time to leave uni?
Nah, I don't think so because I kind of felt like a good time to leave. Maybe looking back on it, those levels all good.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe just looking back on it, I think it was good because I moved to Mangawhai. I had a job up there for a few years.
Yeah.
And I was working there through the summer, and it was just sort of, I was planning on going overseas, but then I couldn't, and then I don't know, it was sort of...
So you had employment to begin with. That's probably the important thing, right?
It was a casual job. I was working at a golf course up there as a caddy, which is a strange, niche job.
Yeah, it is.
It's sort of a neat, golf stuff is quite niche, but... I had a job. I was, it was sort of a pretty carefree time. I sort of looking back now, it's funny because it's not that long ago, but it feels like...
it feels like ages ago.
Yeah, and also just where I'm at now, got my first proper job sort of recently.
Yeah.
So I've kind of come out the other end of it. Yeah, I've definitely feel a lot I suppose a couple years older and a bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
No, I agree that I think lockdown felt longer because I looked at when you graduated and I would have guessed that you finished a couple of years earlier, but just made me realise how long the last few years have been. I was going to get to your golfing career. Who pays for a caddy? Is it like a semi-pro golfer or just a rich dude who wants some help?
I've had two. Though at that the one in Mangawhai, it's very wealthy people who need help, need the emotional support, basically. But yeah, it's a strange job. But I used to play competitively. Yeah, and then since that course opened up, a lot of people who used to play, or just golfers, it's an easy job if you've played golf because you're carrying golf clubs around and keeping people happy. Really.
What do you think about what Tiger did to his caddy?
What?
The Kiwi guy
fired him. I think Steve. I think he was entitled. I don't know. Caddy player relationships are really interesting because I moved from there after I worked there for a long time, and then eventually got into the pro. I caddied for a friend of mine who is a pro in America.
Yeah, wow.
And that was last year. So I've had both. I've had a taste of like the club caddying, which is more like hospitality. It's more like keep these people happy.
Well, I was thinking that
jokes, that sort of thing,
without you having to get into the weeds on your actual experience, like I thought exactly that. That's why I asked. Like, just like hospo, you either get the a-hole customer or the really nice customer, right? Like some people might eat up caddying for douchebags who just want to throw a guy around.
Yeah, I'm not gonna name names, but you had all sorts, and it was sort of like this ragged bunch of caddies too, who from all like people I'd probably not spend that much time with otherwise, but you end up, being around them a lot. And also the difference between the caddies and the players in terms of like a class way, because people are flying in on helicopters and stuff.
For
so
sure.
It's very how would I say? Yeah, you meet all sorts of people.
New Zealand doesn't have a tipping culture. It'd be quite nice to get to the 19th hole at somewhere like the States, and you might get some fat cat put a few $100 extra in your pocket.
Tipping's interesting. Yeah, well, the job is sort of like you're sort of paid by tips in that job, and because a lot of the people are American, it's American owned. A lot of the members are from America. I think over half at that golf course. So it's a really strange bubble that you're in up there, and you do sometimes get tips and. It's interesting too because caddies who work there often work all around the world, and they have quite high expectations of like how much they should get tipped or that sort of thing. And it's sort of, I don't think it's in our nature in New Zealand. Tipping is
that's what I was meant.
You see the tip button on the FOS machine, you sort of flick it away.
The rumor used to be before I started traveling that they'd tell American, just regular American travelers coming in on the plane over the intercom, like, don't tip these guys.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Well,
because it's culturally awkward.
Well, that was the rumor at our job that the staff in the shop were telling the American people not to tip us more than they should, and that upset a few of the caddies because that's the money you're taking home
for sure. And but there'd be a baseline here. Right? We'll get off the money thing, but the other thing is I really love one of the things I love about doing these podcasts is I can indulge and ask just about who wouldn't you? I'd get a bit of insight on caddying. Is it? I'm assuming, firstly, it's about knowing the game and knowing what clubs to hand a person. But do you have to know about other things like kind of the courses that you're playing on or the weather or like what are you expected to know and deliver as a caddy?
So that job, I'll split that into two answers because that job, you're always at the same course. It's often with the same people. Often they're actually terrible at golf. And some of them some people like certain caddies because they might, they get on well or they tell stories or they think the caddy's hilarious or whatever. So it's a real mix. And in that job, it's more often, unless the golf is really good, it's just keeping them happy, trying to, some of these people are terrible at golf. They've got billions of dollars and they're just really insecure about their golf game and they kind of just want you to say, oh, yeah, like, yeah, it's like you.
I know what you're saying.
Butter them up, but from a actual when you're caddying as a professional caddy for a professional golfer, it's super in depth. This is the number. This is where the wind is from. This is how much.
Well, you're like the navigator in a rally car, right?
Exactly. Yeah. That. And it's a real. When you're caddying casually, you can use a laser and see how far it is. But in these competitions, they don't allow it. So you've got a book, which is like a map of the course. you're pacing it out to the nearest sprinkler head, which says 123, and then you're minusing that off, and you get a piece of paper saying how far on the flag is onto the green that day, and then you get up there, and if the difference between 147 yards and 154 yards actually matters.
Yeah, for sure.
Whereas when you're caddying for a club player, you could just fake it. You say, yeah, that's 130.
No, you explain that well. It's a real paraphrasing, but one, you're kind of like a tour guide, and in a kind of, like you say, a hospitality position, trying to please someone, and the other one, you're trying to help someone win their game, basically, and there's higher stakes. And
I love that job in Mangawhai, but it definitely wore on me after a while. Keeping people happy and making people laugh. Being the tour guide, like you said, I feel like it's not something I could do forever. There's kind of like, it can be a hollowness to it with some people. Some people you meet and you make great relationships with, and I'm stoked to have caddied for some of the people I have, and I'm still in touch with them now. But you get some people, just the way that they treat, the way that people get treated is, you just see like interesting sides of people for sure. So
when you got to AUT, because the folks, listeners, how Leonard has ended up here today, aside from being an ex-student, is another podcast guest, one of the earliest ones, Nathan Rarity, who I also know from probably 20 years ago through radio. Somehow I messaged him about something to do with work, to see if I wanted to come in to be a guest, and he mentioned that one of my ex-students was working at RNZ. That turned out to be you. And so we got talking, and I said to him, I think Leonard I said, I totally know Leonard. I totally remember Leonard. And then I said, I think he was a bit older than the other students. And he goes, yeah. He started, he'd started out, following school or whatever, pursuing professional golf before coming to study at AUT. So we kind of go full circle here. What led to you pursuing golf? Is it in the family? Is it in the blood?
Well, she's not my grandma, but basically she's this lady, her name's Tim. Well, it's funny, her name's not even Tim, but we've always called her Tim. She was like our nanny from when we were kids. She had 5 brothers, so they called her Timmy. I think her name's Tess. Her name's Tess, but Tim is how I know her. She's 93 now. She's now 93, but when I was born, youngest of 3, my parents are both still working full-time, and she looked after us, me and my 2 brothers, like, when my parents are out working. She was a widow and out at Clark's Beach where she lived, she had a golf buggy, and she'd drive it down to the course and play. And so from a young age, I'd hop in her golf buggy and drive with her, and there'd be all the old ladies she'd play with, and they'd all go, oh, who's this little cute boy? So that was fun. I liked pinches on the cheek and that sort of thing. But I got into it a little bit doing that, but I was just crazy about sport as a kid. Probably from Tim. She was pretty sporty. Like, we used to play ice hockey in the house and stuff, or like run around with golf clubs. And she was, I would say it's down to Tim, because I played all sorts, cricket and hockey, and then got into golf when she moved in with us eventually. My parents extended our house, and she actually moved in with us. And I started playing with her, got clubs for my birthday, and just got really into it. And it's funny, because at one point I saw these family friends recently who I hadn't seen since I was about 12. And they said, oh, you said you were going to be in the Black Caps. That's what you told us you're going to do when you grow up. So I wanted to be a cricket player at one point. And probably a hockey player as well, because I played them all the way through, like, super competitively, and then chose golf towards the end of high school. And I thought, this is what I want to do, because it doesn't involve anyone else.
But don't take this the wrong way, because I don't know how far you got or how good you were. Was it just an autonomous thing to choose golf, or were you spotted as having great potential? And the reason I say this is that a lot of freaking people play golf, right? And like you said, a lot of people just play it casually and badly. So were you kind of scouted to be a talent? Or?
Yeah, I think I was making like Auckland teams.
I didn't even know there was an Auckland golf team.
Yeah, well, there's like Auckland, there's rep stuff. And
right.
The thing is, golf in New Zealand's so small, really, the competitive side. If you show any promise, you just skip straight to the top of the country, top of the region, top of the country. You make junior teams and stuff, and you kind of get this, I think, looking back in hindsight, you get this false idea of how good you are. Because you're suddenly, there's not many people playing golf, especially, there's probably more now through COVID. It's actually booming a bit more, casual golfers, but competitive golf, it was so, you get to the top pretty quickly, and it's sort of like, oh yeah, I'm good at this, because, I'm
so kind of like thinking like you're going to be Steven Adams if you're good at basketball in New Zealand.
Yeah, I think maybe something like that. But I
don't mean, sorry, I don't mean in terms of necessarily how good a player you are or you aren't, but just rising through such an international sport played by so many people.
Yeah, well, it's interesting comparison because he went to college in America, which is like what I didn't do because I wasn't good enough at the end of high school. I was sort of only just getting into it, but I've had friends who went to college in America for golf, and the guy who I worked for as his caddy, he went to Iowa State in America. He's done really well. He's doing great. But I thought that I sort of, if I'd had it again and I was a bit better at the time, I definitely would have tried to get to America because America's kind of where the pinnacle of golf is.
Yeah.
If you want to make it, like being there is kind of essential.
So it was a full-time gig after school.
Yeah.
Like, and how did you have supporters or sponsors?
Well, my parents really, basically.
Really?
Like, I was living at home.
Yeah.
I worked a few odd jobs. Like I was sampling in supermarkets for a long time, doing that sort of thing, casual work.
Yeah.
And then I used to work at a golf course. I worked... I'd do stuff for my parents, like on their farm, or just odd jobs, but basically not paying rent, living at my parents' house, playing golf pretty much every day, training and that sort of thing. And they were super supportive, like never questioned it, or they're like, yep, go for it, help me pay for everything. Yeah. So down to them really that I could do it, for sure. And I did it for about 3 years after high school, and I was really, really disciplined and into it. And I sort of like the deeper I got into it,
golf disillusionment.
Yeah, I had this, it's a whole. I've like a good friend of mine, this Irish guy Matty. He we had this like amazing chat about we kind of had lived the same lives but in the opposite sides of the world. But getting real into this competitive sport, golf. And the golf in particular, it's interesting because everyone's like, oh, it's such a mental game. You get really into reading books and listening to podcasts and being like, oh, I want to do everything well. And I was in such a bubble with my golf. It was so important to me. I was like, my social life kind of went away. I wasn't doing anything away from golf. I was just like training and, getting all my sleep. And I was kind of living this really sheltered life. And my golf was actually like it was improving, but I think also it's just interesting. I think I probably was overthinking it. I wasn't.
But also, can I say this as well? Because obviously I do my bit of research on each guest. I kind of had sussed this about you already. I think another part of it would have also been that you're interested in and good at a lot of different stuff. Like you've got music as well. You've got other sports. You've got the media thing you're interested in. So I think it's more like that you realise, and this is what life experiences are about, right? You realise through doing stuff what you do and don't want out of things. And maybe, what you've just described is, why am I limiting everything to this one thing when I want to do like a smorgasbord of things?
Totally.
Because what are you doing today at the moment? You've got band practice, you've got a full-time gig at RNZ, you've got still playing sport.
Still playing a bit of sport. I was actually playing soccer last night, goalkeeper for my friend's team. But all sorts of stuff. And like, just to wrap on the golf, because like you said, I have other things I'm into. And I think it really exploded after I decided golf wasn't for me. I was literally in Melbourne at these tournaments, and Melbourne's like the best place to play golf in the world. Some of the best courses.
I live there. Beautiful course.
And it's like it's the top spot. And I was there with my best friend, and I was just hating it. And it's classic. It sounds so cliche. I was like, I just sort of like, what am I doing here? I was nervous. I was like, didn't really want to play. I was angry about the state of my game because I was playing shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, why am I care about this thing so much? I'm actually not really enjoying getting beaten up by the sport, and I'm missing out on. I feel like I hadn't gone to uni by that point. I was like, I'm missing out on other things.
How many years in are we now? I haven't asked you that yet.
This would be like 3 years into doing it full time.
That's a good stint, man.
And I was like, the seed had been planted because I'd already enrolled at AUT at that point. I was like, I'm going to do both, which would have been good. I think like definitely some balance, not just doing. When you're just doing one thing, you get so sort of caught up in it. So I had this I rang mum and dad. I was like, I'm done with this golf thing. And they were like, oh, great. And mum's like, oh, that's great. I'm so glad. And they could have turned around and gone, you've been living in our house for 3 years and we've been paying for all this golf stuff and thousands of dollars.
Oh, that's lovely.
And mum was just like, oh, that's great. Like, golf's overrated. You'll come back to it. Don't worry about it. And then I felt so free. And that's where I actually moved out of home and started university, and it all suddenly got into music stuff, and everything sort of started opening up for me.
Yeah.
And I kept playing a bit of golf and just taking it so much more casual. And what do you think happened?
You like playing golf every
I
now and
started
again now?
playing good. Well, no, I started playing better, and then I was like, oh, I can actually do this. But no, at the classic, like, once I actually stood back and took some, you know, lived my life a bit more, suddenly the golf was better. But I got to a point where I realized there's no way I want to live that life of trying to pursue it, because it's all encompassing, and couldn't do it.
A few years, I reckon, especially when you're younger, particularly when you're younger, I've got to be frank, compared to, like, say, a few years difference in your 40s, like, can seem quite a big difference. So did you feel a bit older than everyone else when you came into first year?
Yeah, and I wasn't really.
No, you weren't, but it's that age, right?
Well,
yeah.
It's funny, my birthday's at the end of March, so it's like I was always young for my year at school.
Yeah,
so I was 20 when I started AUT.
Yeah.
2 years older than most kids.
Yeah.
And
you're saying kids, though.
Well, like 2 years older than most of the students. And it was so funny. I remember at the time I was like, wow, like these kids are so, well, these like people I'm in class with often, and to be honest, if I was straight out of school, I'd be exactly the same. But I felt like, because I had some time, I was more, you know, when a lecturer is like, any questions, and no one asks questions, I'd be like, why are we not asking questions? Yeah. Like, are we too cool to ask questions, or things like that? Or
I get it.
All sorts of stuff. And I think it made a difference for sure. So
actually, I think I remember, Nathan said to me in the chat, in our Facebook chat, that you, something like you said, all your time, this is quite funny, all your time dealing with old people as a golf caddy, you were like, it made it easier for me to ask tutors questions.
Oh, maybe.
There's something in there, man.
I think I said that around Vox Pops in the street, because I've been getting sent out a lot. I'm producing for Nathan's show, which is First Up at RNZ. So I've been doing that for a few months, and I started there at the start of the year doing sports.
What'd you end up majoring in here? Majoring
radio,
in here?
Radio and TV screen production.
Double major.
So double did. But when I started, my school grades were bad because I couldn't get into... I didn't want to go to university. I wanted to be a golfer. So I sort of got my NCEA, but it wasn't pretty. And then I actually didn't get into communications. So my first semester was doing multimedia. And I did a few communications papers, and they said if you have a B average or better, you can go across into it. So, Te Ara Potama, multimedia, I think.
Yes,
multimedia, that's the one.
I used to teach those guys. They used to come into the MPW class that I taught you for. In fact, I don't think I ever taught you again, apart from first year MPW,
well,
right?
It might have been even when I was in that class. And I think it probably was. And I had a good time doing that, because I was kind of like... in the multimedia class was quite small. Yeah. Met some cool people, and I got to... It was a pretty cruisy start to university. And they're not super strict on the marking. Yeah. I always remember it was more about, like, you know... It was quite a different experience.
So was it 4 years including doing that?
No, 3 years.
3 years,
And to be honest, I say 2.5, because I started... Uni pretty much starts in March, and then by my last year, there was no exam, so I finished in October. So it felt like 2.5 years.
I feel like I should have, like, briefed you on this one beforehand, like a kind of AMA, you know, like, because obviously, they would really ask me anything, because when people are in classes first years, I try and, sort of treat everyone quite neutrally and equally. So it's sort of like a few years out now, it's like we can sit here and break bread together, and I'm like, I should have asked Leonard beforehand, if you could ask tutors anything about AUT, what would you ask? Does anything spring to mind? Anything about how this place ran?
Yeah, well,
anything that you didn't like?
Yeah, yeah, perfect. Well,
oh yes, he's got it.
Yeah,
I've got
lots.
Oh god, he's got a list.
I've got a list, but
no, be honest.
The biggest thing I would say about my time at AUT is like with radio. I did a radio major, but the most I got from it was being at BFM.
Yeah.
And I always thought that there's a radio station here with an amazing studio. You could really do something more with it than I thought what was being done. I always felt like the last 6 months of the degree, you're doing more on-air shows sort of once a week, and that's sort of like it's all built up to that. But I feel like that could be done so much sooner.
I feel like I can, at the risk of putting myself out there, I would tend to agree, and I'm more involved with the end of that now.
Cool.
And I feel like, and I know the reasons, which we won't go into, or the reasons I've been told as to why it's not as you suggest. But yeah, I think it's crazy that, because I think the main thing when you're on the radio is that you have a sense of audience, right? That's why we do it. We're connecting with audience. So the way I diplomatically respond to that is that's my take on it, is like I get that, like when I got into doing pretty much Wellington's version of BFM when I was 17 or 18, a huge part of the excitement was feeling like you had an audience out there, getting phone calls and getting texts, and I don't know that you feel that downstairs in that studio, eh?
No, I remember me and Riley, my friend, we were doing our show, and it was sort of like we'd get a text in from his girlfriend, you know,
Yeah.
she was listening, which was
That's cool.
Yeah, she's a sweetheart. Thank you so much. But
Great studios, though.
amazing. That's what I mean. And I also felt like you could have, you know, it's easy to sit back as a student and be like, this could be better and that could be better. Because I did that. I remember at high school, I was at boarding school, and I was always like, this could change and that could change and we could do this different. But actually, it's not that easy. But it felt like, to me, you've got advertising students, they could be writing ads for the radio.
You've got journalism students, they could be reading the news.
Read the news on the hour. Like, you know, why not? Have the shows, have it broadcasting around the university.
Yeah.
It could just be a bit more of an experience in that way. And I think that's what I got at BFM.
I forgot that you were at B, and you ended up there for quite a while.
Yeah,
did you even
two and a half
end up
years.
program director? Or something like that?
No, I was producing the Wire, which is like their show.
The Wire. Yeah,
it's
been around forever.
Been around forever. Everyone's done it, but it was that, you know, it feels like a.
Oh, it's. I mean, you would have been told this by 150 people by now, but it's such a, what's the word? Not even stepping stone, because that undervalues it a little. It's such a well-worn path for many people who've ended up in many areas of media production and presenting, you know.
Yeah, I did news reading, like writing the news. You start off and then got into reading pretty quickly because they're always cycling through people. And
the classic like shit BFM newsreader. There's about 80% of them. So if you're one of the good, I used to love, because I used to do the mornings sometimes way before I taught here, and I thought there was an art form in how poor some of the newsreaders were.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I remember the first time I heard the news read on BFM. And you're like,
reading the news is a real art. Like I said to my students recently, I got into like radio, just turn the mic on and talk to an audience. But getting that tone and that delivery and that really definite style is a real art form. Well,
man. I reckon I had that pretty early on.
Emphasise those key nouns, verbs, whatever they are. Yeah.
Like everyone else had Sky TV. We didn't have TV for a long time until Tim moved in with us, until I was probably 13, 12. So I always had radio sport on my bedside table as a kid because I was sports mad. So I woke up to the sports news and went to sleep with the radio on. So it was always there. So I always had news bulletins playing all day, which is kind of not... What I found out wasn't... A 12-year-old is not actually the target audience of radio sport. It was more people who needed hernias and all the ads that used to play, which I still remember because I listened to the station so much. But I heard enough radio sports news and that sort of thing, how they're supposed to speak, that I think it just came across. I could just mimic that in a way.
I'm guessing, because we'll talk later about the film that I watched today. But and it's I can see some of your golfing career in there now. We're talking about it. Hang on, but I'm guessing now, because I straight away spotted that two of the main actors of the four actors in the film were clearly your parents. That you had no TV, perhaps because they strike me as your mum's an artist, or
she is. She's a lot of things.
A personality profile thing of like I get why Leonard wouldn't have had TV in the house as a younger man. How was Screen, by the way? We won't talk the inner workings of AUT much, but Screen's kind of everything these days, isn't it? Majoring in Screen.
Yeah, majoring in Screen. I think it is. I kind of tacked that on in my last year. I switched things around a bit and managed to do that.
I think both's a great combo these days, man.
It was. I definitely don't gravitate towards the Screen stuff. I found it really... I mean, it's interesting because RNZ's merging with TVNZ, so there might be TV work for me in the future, potentially. But I always found the stuff at university stressful. It's like running a studio and the Screen stuff is really stressful. What I've always liked about radio is how you can just turn up in the middle of Queen Street with a microphone and talk to people, and that's
and also like you spotting that you were basically, not privileged is the wrong word, but you understand that you were lucky to be able to spend 3 years at home playing golf. This seems tangential at the moment, but point coming now. That radio, what I really like about radio and to an extent podcasting is also that it's kind of egalitarian in that regard. Like you can kind of set up radio pretty much anywhere or do a podcast kind of anywhere, you know what I mean? So
Yeah, totally.
wherever you are in the world, whatever your kind of means, most places have some way that they can have some kind of audio media going. I just sort of a funny, it sounds like a low self-esteem from a teacher question, but because, you just, as I say, you kind of leave students to it and you respect that, being a student's a very particular world while you're there. But you guys had did you have group social media pages and group chats and stuff?
Interestingly, I feel like we had in terms of
my follow-on
chats,
question is the low self-esteem teacher question.
I was a little bit. I didn't really hang out with many people at uni here because I would go to BFM or.
I was just wondering whether people get on those group things because I know they've existed over the years and just trash teachers or like that. Okay, so that's
really.
good that people are respectful. I guess also they're sensible enough to realise it's in writing.
True, actually. I mean, I'm sure there'd be inside jokes and that sort of thing. Yeah. And that's probably what students would ask staff if they go to the staff room and talk about.
That's students. Totally it. You just reminded me that. When I realised, where technology was at, I don't know when this, it feels like about 5-6 years ago, and I was sitting on one of those big lectures in the lecture halls, which I don't really go to now, and I'm not involved with now, and someone zoomed in from all the way back, the big lecture theatre downstairs, the really big one, someone zoomed in all the way on their phone and got a perfect capture of my colleague lecturing, stuck like animal ears on her really quickly and obviously uploaded her somewhere, and I was sitting there going, fuck, I might be a meme from lecturing and I don't even know it,
literally. It's a wild time to be, you can go anywhere. And even I feel like even since I've finished, things have moved on with, TikTok and that sort of thing. I'm not really on that personally. So but I think, there was always, there's always chats, just inside jokes, but I don't think there was ever. No, I didn't really think that.
I didn't really think that, but maybe I did. But that's funny that social media is kind of generational, right? So what are you, mid-late 20s?
I'm 26.
Right, so you're probably like Instagram and Snapchat?
Yeah, I'm more, no, I remember I deleted
Probably got a Facebook account you used to use more, not so much
totally.
now.
Now, Instagram and Twitter, I like Twitter.
Yeah.
I spend more time on there than I do tweeting, I'm a real, for example, if I like a musician, I'll listen to a couple songs and then I'll go find interviews with them or find articles written about them and do a deep dive. I've always just been a deep diver on random stuff. So Twitter's a great place for that because you kind of end up in these wormholes.
Oh, yeah, Twitter's, for what you're doing for work, Twitter makes total sense as well. I do think there's a lot of people on Twitter just like, I had someone put it to me recently that I thought really summed it up. Like basically, just having a voice to kind of yell publicly about topics. That seems to happen more on Twitter. I am this and I believe this. You get a lot of that politically.
Yeah, for sure.
But,
that's probably a reason I don't tweet that much.
You strike me as one of those people. You'd be a social media lurker rather than a poster.
I'm definitely a lurker.
Because now I'm involved more with the third years for the radio station and with Static. Particularly this year, I'm doing that. I don't know if you remember, there was that Friday session, all kind of the workshopy stuff. So I found the old social media passwords and gave them to them like TikTok, Instagram and Facebook. And when I gave them the Facebook one, it was like I was picking up this big old dusty book and going,
totally,
and handing it to them. And I think they were like, thanks. And then no one's actually ever done anything with it.
Facebook is
what am I going to message my grandma about our radio show?
I remember, we had and it's funny, I know artists have talked about they've got 20,000 people following them on Facebook, but if they put a post out, 10 people will like it because no one's on there. So it's a real. Or you have to pay for people to see your stuff, and I still go on there now. Actually, sometimes community pages, I find good stories.
I'm on there a lot because that's what I started using 10, 15 years ago, and that's what all my 35 to 50-year-old mates are on. Yeah. And I actually started an event called the New Zealand Podcasting Summit, which was in May. And I did most of the promotion on Facebook. It just seemed, Facebook and Insta. Actually, I realized then that I am a bit out of touch because I noticed I started to get a whole lot of traction with a kind of generation below me when I started paying for Instagram posts as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot to it. Do you have pressure through work? I know, if you're on commercial radio as an announcer, I don't know whether it's contractual or whatever, but now it's pretty much expected that you engage with social media. Like at RNZ, are you guys expected to be on social media, or is it just a given with the job?
It's interesting because first up, it's the social media has kind of been neglected for a long time through COVID because I think there was just lack of staff.
Yeah.
No one was the people who could have done it were sort of had juggling other things, and it wasn't a priority. Things get put out on the RNZ feed on their social media channels anyway if something's going to go, but the show's social medias itself have kind of been neglected. But one of our new people was coming in and picking it up and kind of it's
as we both know, as pretty much all listeners will know as well. It's kind of like it's a necessary evil, man. Like it's got to be the tool for putting content out, whether it's broadcast or whatever. Because like posters don't go up anymore, right? Nah. We don't put stuff in the newspaper. You know, it's like how do you get information to people? Yeah. I would have loved for that event I put on to support more local media, but the only way I was going to get an event that didn't exist to get people to it was paying Instagram and Facebook and all of that. Although I went for an interview at B about the event, and I thought I'm actually going to flip them some bucks and do a campaign for it next year.
Cool,
because you know,
good idea.
They need that, and actually a couple of people at the event said they'd heard the interview, and that's how they were there.
Oh, that's sweet. I'm glad. It's always amazing when people say. You always go, someone was listening to that, and I think I had some of that at BFM. I was like, people are
listening, man.
And then now at RNZ, I think it's a big station, and if stuff plays on First Up, it's 5 till 6 a.m. Not many people are awake, but sometimes it gets replayed on Morning Report, and my auntie will be like, I heard that. And
I don't know how Nathan's coping. Like I did breakfast. Do you know about Nathan's breakfast radio days? You know they were stars. Channel Z?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know how big they were early 2000s?
Yeah. I do.
Do you know how big they were, young man? But anyway, I was going to say I did that slot as well, not Channel Z and not with Nathan, but I've done breakfast radio, and that was a 7 a.m. start.
Is it sleep in?
Well, also, but also Nathan and I talked about it years later. Also at that age, we're going out all the time, burning the candle at both ends. So I got some stories, man. But 5 a.m. start to be on air, man. I wonder how he's coping with that. He must go to bed at 8 o'clock.
I don't know. I think he's mastered the sleep during the day, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But he doesn't get there like Jeremy Parkinson, who's.
I know Jeremy. I don't know him, but I've had him on the podcast.
Yeah, I know that actually because when I was doing a job interview, I actually searched up. I was like, who's this Jeremy guy? And then I heard the podcast episode, so that was hilarious because I felt like. I knew him before I met him. I don't think he knows that actually. But
man, when you listen to that, because people open up on podcasts, you probably knew stuff about him that it would never come up in a job interview. Or
for sure. But you get a good gauge on. I got a good gauge on Jeremy, but he's in there at 3 o'clock in the morning. So I think Nathan's good at getting there when he gets there, and he's kind of he's always on time. But I think he's like. He doesn't need as much lead-in as the producer who's there for sure. In the morning because they're lining up the correspondence and getting the show lined up and stuff. But that hour of the day, I've done a few, and it's
brutal, man. It's brutal.
It's super brutal. Yeah. So it's a real. It's you can't shy away from working that hour.
So what does the day entail for you at RNZ? Your official role, you were hired as a sports journalist.
Yes.
And
have you looked at my LinkedIn?
For obvious reasons that have come on. I've done my research, mate. I'm an academic.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah. You're a sleuth.
I've watched the film.
Yes.
I know that in 2020 you were 65th in the amateur golf rankings in New Zealand.
Okay.
Yeah, you want numbers, you want statics.
Yeah. Keep it coming.
Anyway, so now, because I thought you were in a kind of producer role before you said to me in chat, no, I'm doing a daytime role there. So it's a daytime worth of producing and collating and making content for that show. Is it?
Lots
amazing
of packaging stories. So if something interesting's happening, getting out with the microphone, speaking to the people involved, chopping it up, putting your voice on it, and they'll play it as like a 4 or 5 minute package.
Oh, that's got to be, you got to be enjoying that. You're kind of doing every element of media production.
And then also, exactly. And then also you are setting interviews up for Nathan to do either pre-recorded or live because it's a tricky hour.
Yeah.
If someone's willing to be up before 6
I bet he's had a few people not answer the phone for an interview.
I think so, yeah. You always try to have some things in the bag, but I think people are pretty good. It's interesting, like, I remember I was setting up an interview for someone from Doc, and you just, before I asked, I was like, this person's going to be fine, get it up at 5:45, because, you know, they're from Doc. They're like, they're probably a morning person, whereas if it's a some people just say flat out, and there's no way, let's do a pre-record. So
I think there's a couple of times with situations like that where I've just gone right through from another night and just, I'll just take that call and then I'll get off to bed.
My days are sort of, totally. That's an all-nighter. That time, it sort of feels good, and then, it catches up on you at some point. But by that point, you're probably feeling pretty... be a good time to be interviewed, I think, potentially.
Well, it could go two ways.
Totally. So I sort of through COVID, it's sort of working from home in the morning, getting into the office at about 1 o'clock, and then working through till sort of 6 or 6:30, depending. It just depends. I do some stuff for Checkpoint as well, which is the 5 till 6:30 show. So I feel like I don't have to Checkpoints. I don't have to explain it too much. It's a pretty known show. I feel like.
It's sort of like Kim Hill. It's carved into the rock, into the bedrock of RNZ.
Yeah, but
he's trying to look at my notes now.
I'm not.
He's trying to read upside down. No, just kidding.
I'm not reading the notes, but the days vary, and I'm pretty new to it. I was started at the start of this year doing sports, and that was great because I could. I knew how to speak that language of sports just from being around it so much, but it didn't appeal to me as much, just on a sense of this is the score, this is what happened. Writing news bulletins and stuff.
There's a difference between that's like sports hard news compared to like sports analysis and commentary, which I guess is a bit more of a dream job for real sports nuts.
But the thing is, at a time I was such a sports nut. I'm just not anymore.
Yeah,
I'm not a sports nut like I used to be. There's other things. So the producing, getting to do all sorts of different stories and angles, and I'm trying to I've sort of got a bit of a niche happening where if there's some random stories, they'll send it my way, which I like. I enjoy that because I'm not super. I don't.
Oh, they've realised your flavour that you like to do a bit of quirky stuff as well.
I like the quirky stuff.
That's great.
Yeah.
Follow that kind of. I mean, that's what I really love about Jeremy Wells is he's one of them. I'm not saying this is exactly what you're meaning, but it reminds me of someone who can do really cheeky kind of weird content, but then is actually a really good straight up and down reporter and presenter and news person as well,
Totally. Yeah. And he's that rare, he can go both ways.
Do you have one of those, this is my romantic notions of being a field reporter, there's probably a name for them. Do you have one of those blocks on your microphone with RNZ on it? You can pull it out of the bag.
Pull it out for you, yeah.
Oh my God, he's pulling it out.
Here we go. I'll get it. It's a new... There's the flag.
What's the name for those? I need to get those. Oh, man, that's so cool.
Just a little road mic. That's a flag on there with the RNZ. You have to take a photo, maybe.
Because
that's what goes on the bottom. So, audio medium, we're not doing a great job here, but that's a little test cam. It's battery powered, so you just...
Great. So because I've thought, if I ever... because the thing, everyone wants video these days, and I've thought... do people really want to watch me jabbering on to people? I mean, I watch that, so maybe they do, and you said you're a deep diver. But I thought if I did that, you'd want your podcast logo on your mics, right?
I don't think it'd be hard to do.
No, it wouldn't be hard to do. Now I see that this is just whatever it is. Everything can get printed anywhere in the world now, right?
And he makes them. He makes these metal things himself that this is made of.
Did you have to provide like a Skype reel or any content to get the producer's job, or did you talk your way through?
I did some. Put some of my BFM, old podcasts of BFM stuff on my CV, and just talked to them about what I'd done. I'd done a few I'd sort of got my foot in the door with the sport stuff, and I had to fill in for the job I was applying for anyway, so just was right place, right time. But there's sort of, not too much. A little bit of just to show that you can...
I found your MPW doco today because I'm a data hoarder.
Oh, let me try to remember what that was about.
Yeah. I was actually surprised what it was about because it didn't really seem...
Wait, was this a video thing or a
No,
radio?
You're right, because we did the audio, but you had to make a 3-minute doco. It's so early, you probably don't even remember.
It might have been about my auntie's shop.
Yeah, and car parking issues
car
there.
Car parking in the city. Well, I think, it was funny. Now I can say that. I'm pretty sure I used that interview for something at BFM for a story there, and then I just took the audio and used it again, maybe, because I'd already got it.
I mean, that
two birds, one stone.
But that's a really efficient way to work, and it's not uncommon.
Yeah, true.
People recycle and move stuff around.
That's right.
All the time.
Car park in Auckland City. I've actually I've written a song about that.
Are you in a band that is your name, as in like Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band.
No,
I see songs on compilations. Your name.
Yes, so
with a band.
Well, not with a. Yeah, it's kind of random. The band I'm playing in is my friend's band, and it's called Short Rib, beef short rib, I suppose, is where it's come from. But I'm playing. I was playing guitar. I'm on the keyboard now for that, actually, which is cool. But I'm been recording my own music with Tom Broom, who's also been on the podcast.
Yeah, lovely man.
Yeah, lovely man.
I didn't know him, I didn't know him from Adam, but we had a couple. You know how you've got. Basically, I added, or one of us added each other to do with the music connection or whatever.
Internet friends.
But we had some genuinely enjoyable and funny interactions, and like on comments. And I'm like, this guy's smart and he's got a good sense of humour, quite similar to mine.
Yeah,
I got him to come on, and it was like chatting to an old friend, and that's the only time I've ever talked to him. Yeah. Great drummer.
Well, he's drumming on the songs I've been recording, which are none of them are released yet.
I've heard your vocals as well. You kind of partly sing. And
I'm singing like a
little bit of kind of rapping, but not quite.
Yeah, no, that's definitely I've done that. That's not happening again. The rapping part for sure. That was.
I must have listened to something on one of the first comps. Then
I was. I've actually made an album when I was.
You're going through your young, gifted and broke phase.
Definitely. Yeah. Something. Yeah. I mean, like Tom Scott is my favorite artist.
Oh, that Avondale Bowling Club album is one of the best New Zealand albums I heard in years. I can't wait to hear the new one.
Yeah, it's coming out soon. And I actually got to go to the film festival recently, and I saw he made a short film which was in the final.
Oh yeah,
and it's actually like a it's called Trees, which is what his album that's coming out is. Which I'm sure this short film, he won like best new filmmaker prize.
Yeah,
probably People's Choice as well. I don't think that
he's so talented, man.
Super talented, and like. Yeah, I've got to the first song I ever recorded. I was doing this music group, which was like run by this trust. You could go along on Thursday nights in West Auckland, and he was sort of doing some like work for them as a mentor. And first song I recorded, he was engineering
great. You're one of your like I don't want to say idols. It sounds a bit cheesy, but
and it's funny because in New Zealand, only in New Zealand that can happen. I feel like if you're in America or something overseas, your favorite artist, like if they're as you wouldn't have anything to do with them. So it's on one hand,
that's cool, man.
That's cool, but it's also like, damn, he deserves like everything that's coming his way.
Yeah,
and I think he's only getting better as well.
I've totally followed him as well. Probably not to the depth you have, but I just spotted so early on. It was when Benefit came out, and I heard that on B in like 2010 or whatever. Yeah. And then like I used to like stuff that maybe some other people go, oh, that's a bit dumb. And like he knows he's got older, and the homebrew stuff is not the kind of antics he'd get up to now. But I even saw like artistic merit in the videos that used to be up on YouTube of them just running through an Auckland University lecture hall, just causing chaos.
Yeah.
Like everything that I've seen him put out or do, I'll watch more than or listen to more than once, and that's pretty rare these days.
True. Well, this wait for this.
Except maybe they killed the Prime Minister. That was a bit. That was a bit of an off note. And I think that I've talked on the podcast about this before.
Yeah.
I can't remember who to. I think. I feel for Tom here. I get the feeling that reading between the lines, that's why he went to live in Melbourne for a few years, because it was like, Anyway,
no, I could talk for hours about his art.
I tried to get him on here, but it's one of those things I get like when someone's that talented and also great on the mic. They probably get asked to do stuff multiple times a week.
Yeah, true.
And also I noticed artists get to a point, and again, it's totally justifiable and understandable, where he was really polite to me in chat, but put me on to his manager, because I think part of getting a manager once you get somewhere is just having someone else to neutrally say, no, it's not happening, buddy.
Yeah. And I mean, he probably does get... if I had a podcast, he'd be the top of the list. So he probably is for a lot of people. And
so, how was working with him anyway? Sorry, I just kind of took that over.
It was crazy. He's real. I was kind of definitely new to making music. My brother's good friend was making beats, and I was like, well, I can like write songs. Maybe.
So you picked up playing and getting into music later, or not getting into it, but you picked up being a practitioner later in life, like you didn't play when you were a kid.
No. And I only got into doing vocals. Like I never wanted singing, and I couldn't play instruments until COVID. I actually started playing guitar. I got a guitar around just before COVID for that Christmas.
Good timing.
Great timing. And now I'm like, I take it everywhere. Like I play.
Yeah.
You know, I'm so happy. It's really been eye-opening for me. I always like, I didn't play when I was 5, so I'm not going to play guitar. And I always thought, I'll just get like, I can play with other people, but now I can play myself, and it's like so. I get so much joy out of.
Do you take it everywhere? Like you're the guy at the party anytime that they know with it on his back?
No. I don't. No, I'm definitely not that guy. I mean, like if I'm going away with my girlfriend for a weekend away, I'll take the guitar just because I want to sit down and maybe not even touch it.
It's meditative.
Yeah. And I'm sort of like, even just recently, I've been playing more and like unlocking just more kind of ways to play, and it's quite satisfying at the moment to do it. So. It's actually like the music I want to be making, I've realized, is instrument based. It's not like laptop music. It's more,
but also
more like
band
music.
As you know, these days it's so much easier and more reliable, like even more reliable than it was 10, 15 years ago. And you get so much power at home to actually just have a DAW that you use, so you can put organic stuff into it. You know, like having a little home studio is handy on top of that as well.
I've got what I need to do that, and that's another thing. Like, I'm probably contradicting myself here because now I would say with that, I've never got that deep into the recording side of things, and I have with playing. It's probably, I've been saying it for a long time too, that I want to get better at the recording, because it would
recording or just chucking kind of beats together to play over and stuff.
Yeah, I can like demo stuff, but
I'll tell you this: I got reasonably deep into it just before I left Melbourne. So 2003, 2005, I really got stuck into Cubase and all the rest of it. And then I opened what I'd been making and what I'd been working on, I can't remember, let's say 2 years later, and I just had no idea how I'd done like 60% of what I've done. So when you do get on that bike, it's just a matter of like just trying to chip away at it at least a couple of hours a week and keeping on doing it, because otherwise you start to forget a bunch of stuff you've learned. But I think it's all a lot easier these days because everything's just so much more like, everything has great sounds, computers run faster, like, you know, anyway.
Yeah, no, the tech's
rabbit hole.
People can make, I've got friends who do everything themselves in their bedroom, and the music they make is incredible. And I don't see myself, I'm definitely nowhere near that at the moment. And I'd like to think one day I could record myself as well, but I really do enjoy working with people like Tom Broom, getting to sit down with him.
How'd you link up with him to play with him?
Didn't know him either. I just saw he was getting interviewed on, maybe Radioactive about a song he'd put out, and then I listened to it because I just saw it, and then he was talking about his new studio he's got, and I was like, I'm looking for somewhere to record, because I've been writing these songs, which I've been recording recently for since the last couple of years, really, just slowly chipping away at them, and I really wanted to get them done and recorded and released, and so I can play gigs and also get on with the next bit of music as well. So it feels like getting the ball rolling with the music stuff.
Yeah.
So I thought it was, I've been kind of eager to do that for a while, and I've started, I've played a few solo shows, just dipping my toes in, but I'm going to get more of a band going.
So how do you, admittedly, I've some fatigue in my later years, but how do you fit all this in, man? Because you work a full day.
Yeah, I do
hours.
now.
Yeah, and then you got band practice one night a week.
Yeah, we did, because we had a gig recently, but sort of one night a week, and then the recording with Tom's become like a weekend thing now.
Yeah, cool.
When I can do it, and that's taken. The thing about doing it yourself is you're in charge of when you do it, so you could do it faster than it's taken us, because. I started end of last year, and it's just slowly chipping away at recording these songs. And if we're doing it just me and him, he's drumming and I'm playing the other instruments, or friends are sending stuff in. It's piece by piece. It takes a while. It's not smashing it out. So it's fitting it in. I don't know, just after work, or just where the time is, I suppose. Yeah,
because you also made a short film. Which I would wager is not a short film, because it's half an hour long.
It's half an hour, yeah.
And when I watched it, I thought, man, there's a lot of freaking work that goes into a short film, let alone half an hour.
Yeah, it's pretty self-indulgent.
So talk to us about the pizza boy, Leighton Price.
Leighton Price, yeah. I've been waiting to talk to someone about this. That's why disclaimer, when Lewis was like, do you want to come on the podcast? I was like, yes. By the way, you should watch this.
Okay, now this is where I need to set this up, because sometimes in podcasts it can go awry when you talk for too long about something that none of the audience have seen.
Okay.
So it's called Wildcard, folks. It's that easy. It's on YouTube. I don't know what else comes up when you search Wildcard.
If you search up Wildcard short film.
And it's a half-hour Wildcard short film. No, Vimeo. It's on Vimeo. It's on Vimeo, not YouTube. It's on YouTube.
The Leighton Price story.
The Leighton Price story. And
Vortex Studios.
Leonard is the star.
That's it. Well, basically, so, yeah, what do you want to know about Wildcard?
Oh, sorry, I forgot my very well journalistically phrased question.
I've got lots
Talk
to say.
about Leighton Price, the pizza boy.
So, Leighton Price is a character who was developed alongside my best friend, Matthew McGowan, who is from Ireland.
Yeah.
Met him at the golf caddying job.
Yeah.
COVID hit.
Yeah.
He's far from home, kicked out of the house he was living in because he was living with an old lady who's like, oh, you got to get out of here now. And Mum's like, oh, he can come live with us. So he moved in with us for lockdown. Had such a good time. So
that's how you made a half-hour film.
Oh, it's in lockdown. Yeah, it's in the credits.
Right,
it's like filmed in lockdown on an iPhone.
Yeah.
He's a film head. Like, he goes to Cannes Film Festival each year. Just loves movies, TV shows. He writes scripts. He's going to direct beautiful films in the future. Like, I'm excited for him. He was the guy who I said we had the similar golfing paths, but on opposite sides. So we had this road trip right before COVID and just bonded like crazy over like this. We shared the same story. And it was kind of like a real carefree time for both of us. Pre-pandemic, we'd been working in Queenstown at the New Zealand Open. Just on this road trip, had a good time. Like, man, hit it off. This guy's awesome. Then lockdown hit. He moved into my family home. And he's like, we're playing tennis on the tennis court there. He's like, hey, we should make this movie. Like, I've got an idea. And I was like, all right, let's film it like right now.
It was adorable watching your mum act because she was like...
yeah, she's... I don't even know if she was acting. Well, no, it was funny.
No, she was little bits. Like there was a couple of great little cuts where you could tell she'd like cracked up. I just loved it because that's how you make a short film. You get the people around you, especially in lockdown.
Oh, yeah. It was level 4. Like, this is when you couldn't do anything. It was April 2020 when we made it.
Yeah.
And we just shot it, had great weather, iPhone... Yeah. With a tripod, with a little handheld thing, so it was kind of steady. iPhone 5, I think.
Your dad forgot to mention 10-pin bowling as one of the sports, so you could tell they cut back in and they were laughing.
Well, the funny thing was, if you watch Wildcard, my parents are on the couch and we're interviewing them. My dad didn't actually realize he thought we were talking about me because it was this character.
I just assumed that it was so many similarities.
Well, there is.
Talking about your kids.
I basically, spoiler alert, I basically took my like golf career and what happened with it and just spun it into this character who wants to be a pro tennis player.
No, but because this is what's good about the two things. At the end, I thought, well, that's a sign of a good film where you want to talk about the ending with someone, not because the ending was... Like what not because it's a well-made ending, but sorry. Before that, it's going to go to because relating to the main point is like, isn't the idea that he's like real hapless and kind of as a dreamer and lives in a dream world?
Yeah, totally. Right, yeah.
So you actually don't want it's kind of like a spoiler alert thing, whereas you actually did it. Yeah.
Well, no, he's doing it. He's pro. Like he's on the circuit, but he's also a dreamer. I think.
I got to do this without doing a spoiler. We've got all of my hundreds of listeners and all the thousands of people that are going to suddenly watch it. But so I'll say this, it's sort of like abstract terms. The person it turns out he's paying has been ripping him off, right? That's the idea. So that's...
Yeah, which is another... Yeah, no, we can say. I mean, like, no one's going to know what we're talking about.
But the American Idol thing's in his head. See, I think this makes people want to watch it more.
Wait, you mean like imaginary?
Well, I thought... well, this is why I wanted to talk about the ending, because I thought before that was the flip for me when the American guy came on. I was like, okay, so
Canadian,
this is
by the way.
Canadian.
Yes.
We are. So I was like, okay, he is in reality. Because what I thought at first was going to happen is it was going to turn out that it was just because of all the stuff with him completely on his own the whole time. I thought it was going to be that the poor guy is actually like making all of this up in his head.
Oh my gosh.
So when he said, when he said, oh, the American Idol, when it said, oh, he didn't get through the auditions.
Yeah.
I took that as like, okay, that was totally him in make-believe land, and the tennis guy ripped him off. So just overall, he's still stuck at the family home.
I need to go rewatch it now.
No, I'm not saying that you were the one who started it.
Wow, I was definitely...
Well, how did he get an American Idol audition if he's like...
Because he sent a tape in, because he's... I don't know, actually. Yeah, the backstory is a little bit blurry. But basically, we were just filming one day, and I was sitting on the court, and then I was just riffing about, like, my idols, sporting. I got these idols, Michael Jordan, Michael Jackson, Randy Jackson. And then I was just like, that's funny. Let's just have this thing about Randy Jackson. And he's kind of got this obsession with Randy Jackson. So I had to make these American Idol.
But you're right. Analogous to what you said about where you got to with golf, like, was like him training, but he's playing tennis on his own.
Yeah. No, that was funny. It was a real, like, we just went for it when we were filming it. We didn't really write anything apart from the script for
your parents got
Panther. Yeah,
say your parents got a beautiful spot out there, man.
Yeah,
Did you
I grew
up
up there. That's the only house I've ever lived in.
So semi-rural or rural?
Yeah, Waiau Pa, so out by Spookers.
So does your dad? I know exactly what you mean. So does your dad like work the land? Is that what he does?
Nah, not quite. It's sort of like a classic lifestyle country block, really. But he's got sheep out there. So
what I'm guessing he might have retired now. What was his racket when you were growing up?
He was like he worked sort of some like he eventually started building big water tanks. So like worked for himself building these water tanks at like freezing works and resorts and big ones like 1 million litres and that sort of thing. But before
so he's like from an engineering background or something like that?
Marketing and no, not quite, but he was in Lincoln for university, did marketing stuff, and then just got into. He's pretty handy just with things. I don't think he had an engineering background, but he just sort of saw a business, and he always wanted to. He said when he was turned 40, he wanted to start working for himself, and he did that. And then he said when he turned 60, he's going to retire, and he did that too. So like, he sort of. And
are you the youngest brother?
I'm the youngest. Yeah, I got two older brothers. But
how's it being the youngest brother with 2 older brothers?
Yeah, fun. I think you.
Do you learn to have the high pain threshold? Do you?
No, we weren't rough like that. No, we weren't rough and bloody tumble, mate. No, we were pretty. I just enjoyed it. I think I was quite a different. I got a lot of influence from both brothers in very different directions, like complete opposite. But I think I was just soaking it all in as the youngest. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
And you've covered the New Zealand Darts Masters.
Yes.
That interests me because I like quite esoteric sports. I play pinball competitively. I'm not sure I'd call that a sport.
Oh.
But how was that to cover? Like,
it was cool. I went along. Yeah, that was
because I love that darts is called a sport. Because I guess it is a sport.
It's definitely a sport.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a sport. It's I went along.
I'm going to get hate mail from the darts people.
It was cool. I just went to the press conference. Spoke to all the they're just sort of everyday people, and they've got this. Yeah, this insane skill of being darts people, but like
they probably don't smoke while they do it like they used to in the 80s and 90s.
Maybe
right?
not, but they're very working class, like super working class British people. And the thing is, like their whole circuit is this massive party for people to go along. But I feel like that would get so old for them.
You just reminded me. How's this for 2 stories coming together that I didn't even plan for? One of the guys who I met through pinball, because we've had a lot of people come through it over the years, got talking to him, and his daughter. This just came back to me now from a few years ago. His daughter she'd become one of the best women's players, and he'd told me about how he'd gone to the events, and he goes, the events are just like super fun. So you just confirmed it then that like they're kind of a big yahoo around the event as well.
Oh, it's like a huge party. It's like the Sevens used to be.
Yeah.
But in an inside indoor thing. But so it's on TV. It's a big deal. Like people get real into it, and they're super skilled at what they do.
Yeah, so sure. And you know what? I was only, obviously I'm just on the wind up because I'm on the mic. Like I get it. Yeah, they're really good.
No, totally.
But yeah, you're right. He's very working class. He used to be, guys like world champ, fag hanging out of their mouth, and like you say, like a kind of before tattoos were tattoos, like a.
Nah, they still got those.
A hand etched anchor on the.
Still got those. Those tattoos.
They're the real people, man.
Yeah, totally.
Great. That sounds really enjoyable. And so you just go out there for the day, and
I went to just shot to Hamilton and cut a story about it for.
Maybe there's a story in the pinball thing. We can talk about that off mic.
I
saw your ears prick up.
Yeah,
I'll send you stuff later on. Oh, it's been a pleasure, man. And like I say, it's like obviously classroom environment's way different, and you're in first year there, and I was a tutor, but it's really nice to catch up again.
Yeah.
And I was quite stoked that you already knew the show and obviously had listened to a few as well. Oh, in closing, everyone, that's the thing is when Leonard had just finished the degree, he followed me on my show on Facebook and then suggested being a guest, but I just at the time felt like, no, I was good on you, man. Like, you don't ask, but at the time I thought it's like, it's a little bit close to coming out of the.
Anyway,
totally.
Anyway. I feel like everything we've talked about has been post-degree. A lot of it has been anyway.
Yeah.
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 Thanks, Lewis.
No worries.